Good evening, everybody. I'm kind of sick today, so I'm not at work. Well, it's nighttime anyway. I wouldn't even probably be at work at this time, but you never know. Showing my current progress on this Dirk. So first off, I'm making a scabbard for it. It's not the fanciest deal. I was trying to do some kind of floral design, and my 3-year-old helped me stamp genuine leather into it. But something I did recently is I cut the tip with an angle grinder, being careful. I actually didn't use the angle. I didn't use a cutting wheel. I used a flap sanding disc. So you can see kind of the machine marks. Maybe you can see them. I don't know. Let's try. Yeah, the false edge, you can see some machine marks. I need to clean that up with a orbital sander. Or I might just go ahead and put an edge on the false edge on the false edge. I'm sorry, put an edge on the false edge. And then the front of this will have a true edge. Now, down here you can see that it's got a thinner edge. You go higher up, it's thicker, because that's the part that I ground down into the main part of the blade. So anyways, still got to put an edge on it, but the most important thing is I got the shape carefully without detempering it. I kept a pan of water nearby. I also had to rework this. It's not perfect looking, but the bolster, I had to take a file. First off, I actually took the tang. Instead of having it be perfectly straight, I had to go kind of a curve. I grounded a little bit with the angle grinder, so it would have shoulders, and it would actually be more historical that way. In the process, I had to, do some hand filing of this, more so. I could have made another bolster, but I'm like, you know what? It's the original one. I'm having difficulty trying to finish this in the first place, time-wise, so I'm just going to go ahead and, move forward. The haunches, I took a file to it, actually made them look a little more straight, so it's more consistent. Also, I kind of filed that down a little bit. Also filed these, a little bit straighter, a little bit more centered. That one could use a little more work. I might take a file to that again, or a sanding block. I annealed the brass nut that I cut before. That way I can actually file this as a little more square, and then took a chainsaw file and filed those little guys, little indentations, to make it basically into a cross, if you will. A cross or rosette, I didn't think of it as a cross. I need to file it down some more. I drew some hearts and dots, which I want to drill and file down, but all my tools are at work. I don't know if I'm going to work tomorrow. Like I said, I'm kind of sick. I want to make it to the Scottish Games this weekend. Ventura, Seaside Highland Games. I just don't know if it's going to happen, because I've kind of been feeling like crap all day. Like really, really bad. I've gotten better since this morning, but I'm still not feeling super great. Anyways, earlier today, yesterday, I kind of carved these out a little bit deeper, and then this evening I was sanding it. My 3-year-old was kind of helping me go towards the dust as I kind of carefully sanded it into all this. Now, I took my razor blade to carve these little lines out. Now, these ones, all the ones on the bottom, look better than the top, and the very top, I don't have all those carved out, because my razor blade, the only one that's with me, has a tip that's kind of flattened at this point. It's not super obvious here, and it's, yeah, I stropped it, but right there, let's see, yeah, you can kind of see from that angle, it's a little bit rounded off, and the other side's worse. Unfortunately, it's the only razor blade I have with me, because the rest of them are my tools at work. So, which I tend to leave at work throughout the week, and then I take them home with me for the weekend. Problem is, if I'm not going to work tomorrow, I'm not going to have my tools with me. I don't really take these into the shop to work. But anyways, so I sanded some of the pencil markings off this. It is looking good. I need to file this a little bit better to make it look nicer. This was more oval shaped. That might have been noticeable in the last video. The hole's not totally centered, and I realize that despite my efforts, the blade is kind of going that way a little bit. And here, the blade's going that way a little bit. Now, when you're holding it, you really can't tell. I mean, it feels the way a Dirk should feel. And historically, there's plenty of blades that actually were just as off-center. But anyways, this is the current status of one of my older Dirks. I need to kind of clean that up right there a little bit too. I was thinking about taking some oil-based stain. The problem is I'm going to want that to sit for a couple days if I were to use that. And I don't know if I'm patient enough. If I don't make it to the games this weekend, it's not going to matter because I won't finish this tomorrow if that's the case. If I don't go to work tomorrow, this doesn't get finished tomorrow. I was going to come home and then grind this down and do all that stuff if I felt good enough. And that way I can try to get this thing done and also spray lacquer all of this. I was thinking about doing a clear coat, which will darken the oak a little bit. It'll also protect all the knot work I've done. It'll also fill in some of the rough spots. But I don't want to get too crazy with that. But yeah, I made a comb a while back that was stained red oak and from a palette, and it actually turned out pretty good. See, I'm looking at this right here, that spot right there, that line right there. I need to carve it a little bit sharper. The bottom ones here on the, like, okay, so the bottom knot, the bottom of the bottom knot is actually cleaner on this side. The bottom of the top knot, not as clean because the blade was starting to get dull. And I'm like, oh crap, well, I have like, 4 box cutters, Milwaukee. Only one of them has extra blades. Wait, hold on a sec. Yeah, that's right. There's no extra pocket for blades here. And I have one that does. And unfortunately, that's the one I don't have with me. I have another one just like this in my tools. I mean, for all I know, I can have one of these in my car. But it's not going to be in an obvious location. So I'm a little bit SOL. I would like to get this thing, once it dries, get it glued together tomorrow, and then I'd love to take my drill and drill a bunch of holes and then stitch it and then dye it and then seal it and then have it ready to go, like get a lot of stuff done before the next day, because I'd like to wear this for the Scottish Games. I like to have one of my Dirks, which is more authentic in terms of the 3-finger grip. Looks more Jacobite, even though the file work on this is from a later period. They might have had that in earlier ones. I need to double check some of the historical Jacobite era Dirks and see if that particular file work was done. There should be some kind of a groove here, a fuller, but it didn't always happen. But, I think usually that was the case. But, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm proud of the way this is starting to look. This is definitely looking better than my previous work. I'm grateful for that. This was more oblong. Like from the front, this actually used to be wider. Just a little bit wider, like maybe, in total, like maybe like an 1/8 of an inch on each side. And then from the actual side, it was about that size. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to clean this up, make it look nicer. I did so. First, I took this cap off and the nut, and I filed the actual pommel down, and then I went ahead and took some nippers and nipped the excess brass, and then I filed it to look a little more clean. There's still a couple rough spots here that I need to take this thing off and then sand it from the inside. That way I take off the extra burrs. This is okay, although I need to sand it, make it look a little bit cleaner. There's still a couple, there's a couple foul marks that need to disappear. And then this blade, I'm going to go ahead and take some sandpaper. Obviously, you see there's sandpaper going that way, and then there's the sandpaper going this way. Versus the original mirror polish that I had. I don't require mirror polish. To be honest, some of the patina gives it more of an authentic feel. But I'm going to go ahead and, resand it anyway. And just make it, once I get the edge, like totally the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and sand this thing carefully, so as not to cut myself. And then just kind of go from there. But anyways, this is my current progress on my Dirks. I have a bunch of other ones I've been working on that I think I did a video on already, and I'm just not quite there yet as far as finishing any of those and putting blades on them. I have another one from this era of Dirks. That's an earlier attempt, like the first Dirk I actually completed. It's from that series. This is kind of from the same wood. This is actually definitely from the same wood supply. And originally this one, didn't have any knotwork on it. It had like very, very, shallow carvings with a razor blade. I've since decided to go ahead and use my, that blade in particular, that little spade one right there, to go ahead and make this work a whole lot, look a whole lot nicer. And it definitely did the trick. I'm still using the razor blade to carve the actual lines. I'm not sure if that's a mistake just yet. I'm trying not to cut too deep. Some of these have gone deeper than others. Some of these, because the blade's not as sharp, I'm not getting quite the right angle on some of these. I'm going to try again. I mean, it's not that it's unfixable, so to speak. It's just going to take a lot of extra work. I don't want to keep resanding and resanding and resanding. I want to get this thing done. I'm liking the way the haunches look now. They actually look better than they did. There's a knot right there. That's okay, because I've had other pieces, other projects that have like a knot right here or something else. And to be honest, this is definitely a nicer piece of wood from the collection, from my mom's house. Yeah, so it's kind of like sacred to me in a sense that it's like it's from oak, from my mom's backyard. I love oak, and to be honest, it's kind of fun to carve. Walnut is kind of easy to carve, but it's also easier to chip. Maple is nice to carve, but it's a little bit harder, but it carves more easily, I think, than it carves easily in the sense that you can put a little more pressure without having to worry about it just breaking and chipping apart. Oak, you got to worry about that a little bit, and definitely walnut, you have to worry about that. So anyways, all in good time. This doesn't have to be the most fancy looking scabbard in the world. It's definitely not going to be. It's, you know, by the time it's finished, it's going to be, you know, I'm going to use a darker brown because I do like the dark brown. When I got this thing wet, it looked pretty nice. So I might just go ahead and do a kind of darkish brown. But I can do it black. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. So I am not totally decided yet, but I'm probably going to go with a dark brown. If I decide I don't like it mid-process, I can just say, screw it. I'll take some Italian black water stain dye and just go ahead and go back over it. And no harm, no foul. You can't really go wrong with black leather on a knife sheath. The only problem is if you have other leather that you're wearing that happens to be brown. Depends what you're wearing, really. So I don't want to have brown with like a black sporin and other stuff that's black. It might, you know, might clash a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see. I think this thing's really cool the way it looks. Even this design is not perfect, but if I can get it, just get it finished in its simplicity, it might be fine. There's going to be, like, I might do a band of leather across the top of this. I'm not sure yet. I thought about that, but I may not. I'm definitely going to have a loop coming up and going back down. That'll basically be no longer than basically like the bottom of that brass. Because that's the historical way. Not that they said, oh, you can't go anywhere above that. No, but simply that there's a small loop that went like so. And it just kind of looped here, looped back down, and then it kind of turned around a little bit when you put it in the on your belt. So that's pretty much how that went. This particular design is not exactly, you know, Jacobite period. That's okay. I don't care. I designed it yesterday. I mean, really, you know, I just sort of did a little simple design. So anyways, that's the current progress. Just want to show you guys that, and let me know what you think, and I will talk to you later. Bye.